Hello, Earthlings! It's Neutron back again, with another album review. This week is going to be another double whammy. I'm going to be reviewing Fordham Road's debut album tomorrow, so I implore you to stick around for that, especially if you're a prog head, and especially if you haven't a clue who Fordham Road are, because even though I haven't listened to the album, I have listened to the EP they did earlier this year, The Gates of Heaven, and it's a near masterpiece. Plus, I know them. But today, as you can tell from the title of the video, we're going to be examining the new album from King Gizzard and Lizard Wizard, Polygondwanaland. This is their fourth album of the year, not the decade or ever, just this year. They set a goal of 4 or 5 albums this year, and they have achieved the lower goal. At the current rate they're releasing albums, I don't think they're gonna achieve the higher goal of 5. Also, I should point out that since I reviewed the second album of this year, Murder of the Universe, I have listened to I'm in Your Mind Fuzz, and I still think Murder of the Universe sounds too much like Nonagon Infinity, and not enough like Mind Fuzz to balance it out. Anyway, with the title Polygondwanaland, it's a slightly obvious reference to Nonagon Infinity. Add to that the fact that one of the pieces of artwork for the album has the words Nonagon Infinity on it. In fact, this album is slightly revolutionary, and it is quite possibly the first fan-released album a band has made, as opposed to a bootleg, which is fan-made, but this is something the band made but gave to their fans to release themselves, although some record labels are putting it out. Apparently people who work for them are fans of the Giz. As with many of their concept albums, the instruments on this album are mainly played by head lizard Stu McKenzie, co-lead guitarist Joey Walker, and lead drummer Michael Kavanagh. There's a real lack of Ambrose Kenny Smith on this album, although if you watch their cover of Let There Be Rock by AC/DC, sung by Ambrose, your hunger for him will be satisfied. But anyway, let's get to the music. Track 1, Crumbling Castle, the only track that isn't part of a 3-part suite, establishes the poly part of the album's name, with some odd meters and polyrhythms. It's a relatively quiet beginning compared to I'm in Your Mind, Robot Stop, and The Tale of the Altered Beast, but still a juggernaut of a groove, or amalgamation of grooves. It's got Stu McKenzie written all over it, and the production on this album is already very obviously much cleaner than previous King Gizzard albums. In the middle section, the guitars, drums, vocals, and synth all engage in a layering of polyrhythms. I almost said battle, but it doesn't feel very much like a battle. As with Melting earlier this year, from Flying Microtonal Banana, you can really hear Stu's Carnatic music influences in the repeated motifs in the guitar as the piece develops. The da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Some flute floats in and out along with some glass marimba, according to the credits. And then the main theme gets the Nonagon Infinity treatment with the addition of layers of guitars, some good old distortion, and Ambrose's harp. It goes on for a minute, then just in case our faces haven't melted enough, they pause a while, and then they come back in halftime, the closest they have come so far to doom metal. Then we get our first 3-part suite of the album, comprising the tracks Polygondwanaland, The Castle in the Air, and Deserted Dunes, Welcome Weary Feet. So Polygondwanaland begins much calmer, but the polyrhythms are still there, this time a simple 3 against 5. It seems simple compared to what happened in Crumbling Castle. And I really like the way Stu's acoustic and Joey's bass dance around each other, later joined by some mellotron flute and some real flute. Then we get some spoken word from Leah Sr., who narrated The Tale of the Altered Beast and The Lord of Lightning versus the Balrog. But her voice meshes much better with the music behind it this time, and it transitions easily into Stu's voice as the music quickens, and we get a synth loop and some hand claps and tambourine, which add to strengthen the groove and lay down a solid 4/4 against the other polyrhythms. And Deserted Dunes keeps this fast, dancey tempo, but it reintroduces the elements from Polygondwanaland, the guitar, bass, vocal, dance. The synth loop comes back, joined by some other synths, and the band gives us a funky halftime coda, after which the first loop fades out at the very end. The next suite of the album comprises the tracks The Inner Cell, Loyalty, and Horology. The Inner Cell has some deceptively simple sounding 6/5 polyrhythms between the guitar and bass, but it's still got the funky, dancey 16th note groove of Deserted Dunes. And the vocals really nicely accent the guitar riff here. Loyalty begins with another synth loop, this time in 11, which is 6 plus 5, and it continues in a similar vibe to The Inner Cell. We get some flute at the end, and it just has a similarly relentless melody. Horology is in 7, with, I don't know if there's a big accent on beat 7, or on beat 2, which I'm hearing as 1 sometimes. I guess one of them's in your mind, the other's in your mind fuzz. Joey's voice is actually much more prominent here than Stu's, and in some places he actually, strangely enough, reminds me of Stevie Jackson or Stuart Murdoch from Belle and Sebastian. And the final word of this song is tetrachromacy, which conveniently brings us to the final trilogy of the album. Tetrachromacy, Searching, and The Fourth Color. Tetrachromacy is about just that, the ability to perceive a fourth primary color. This is Stu's most focused and clearest lyric since Rattlesnake. And Ambrose's harp makes a welcome return in the middle for some bends. I should say some sick bends, because it feels weird to say bends without putting sick before it. Searching is driven by some really nice and precise percussion, possibly loops, supporting Stu's voice. Synths buzz in and out as Stu proclaims his desire to see the world differently, i.e. tetrachromatically. The music gets almost hypnotic at this point, with the synth drone in the background, and we get 2 Stus in each ear alternate singing the last line syllable by syllable. And then the fourth color comes crashing in triumphantly as Stu proudly proclaims, "I believe the hyperbole, I see the fourth color, and now I am a god." Eventually all the different sections of this piece pile on top of each other into one inexorable climax. After some near silence, Calves gives us a run on the toms, leading to one last Nonagon Infinity burst of chaos for one sweet last minute, even though it's in 4/4 this time. So all in all, this is possibly, I think this is King Gizzard's second masterpiece of the year after Flying Microtonal Banana, but I know a lot of their fans watching this would consider it their fourth, and some would consider it their third. Other people have other opinions. I have to say at this point that Sketches of Brunswick East is also really high up there of all their albums this year for me. They're really giving Robert Pollard a run for his money in terms of prolificness, in terms of doing a lot of stuff in one year. At this point, they've released about 12% the number of albums that Pollard has done in about 12% of the time he's been doing them. And this is also King Gizzard's most prog album yet. I mean, I thought they couldn't get any more prog on Nonagon Infinity, and then they came out with Murder of the Universe, which manages to both out-prog and sound too much like Nonagon Infinity. And, but then they managed to out-prog it on Polygondwanaland, and I'm super happy about that. But anyway, those are my sometimes clumsily stated opinions. I'm dying to hear yours, though. Leave them in the comments. Again, tune back in tomorrow, where I'll be reviewing another young prog band, Fordham Road. I will see you then, but until then, this is Neutron Sound signing off. Gafaba.